Hi everyone, welcome to this edition of AHRI Insight. I'm Kirralie Condon and today we're going to talk all about numbers. Just imagine this for a minute, 12 million ryegrass seeds sown, sprayed and counted over 26,000 times from over 5,000 ryegrass samples submitted from across Australia in the last 25 years. Pretty impressive stuff, and this is exactly what the CSU testing service has done since it began testing for herbicide resistance back in 1991. Could also be pretty mind-numbing stuff, but John Broster and Professor Jim Pratley from CSU have done a great job in compiling the data over the 25-year period. Now, just as a snapshot of the over 5,000 ryegrass samples tested, over 80% were resistant to Group A fops, over 80% resistant to Group A dens, no surprises there, and just over 50% were resistant to Group Bs. Now, Group Bs also won the gong for the fastest increase in resistance over that 25-year period. Most ryegrass samples were resistant to one or two herbicide groups, typically Group A fops and Group B, and if they were resistant to three, it was typically through the addition of Group A dim resistance. Now, of the samples submitted for testing to the 5 standard herbicide groups, only 9% were susceptible to them all, so some fairly significant numbers there. Now, probably the most interesting part of the data I found was the resistance patterns between the herbicide status of different herbicide groups. In particular, the Group A fops had 100% correlation with the resistance status of the Group A dens, meaning that if a sample was resistant to Group A fops, it was also resistant to the dens. If it was susceptible to the fops, it was also susceptible to the dens. The other interesting one was clethodim. Well, the resistance status of clethodim had a fairly weak relationship with with either fops or dens. Its relationship with other dim herbicides varied significantly. For example, it had a fairly low correlation with tricoxidin or achieve, but had a fairly strong relationship with the resistance status of butroxidin or something like factor. And finally, the other interesting comparison was between Group B imidazolinones and sulfonylureas, where samples that were tested to both of those in 70% of cases had the same resistance status. So if a sample was resistant to sulfonylureas, 70% of the time it was resistant to imidazolinones and vice versa. Now, I know there have been a lot of numbers today, but we're constantly being told herbicide resistance is a numbers game. Strive for zero, but in this case, 12 million ryegrass seeds tested over 26,000 times on over 5,000 ryegrass samples for herbicide resistance through the CSU testing service. Well, that's just got to be a good thing.